What's good, y'all? It's Mark and Jade Godbolt here. We're just a couple of millennials who met at the peak of our careers as a beauty influencer and a corporate cool kid who decided that life wasn't enough without God. Our platform and this show are all about how our journey to healing and how following after Jesus really changed us and our marriage forever. We aren't your traditional churchgoers, and we appreciate that about ourselves. Through our testimonies, we hope that you find relief, comfort, revelation, and most importantly, the Spirit of God. Let's get into this episode. Sometimes you just want to be a fly on the wall in people's conversations, especially marriage conversations, God conversations, real ones that you're not, setting up a set for and producing, but truly when we're laying up, in the bed and we're just talking and bringing that element into our podcast because we want to come more regularly to our audience who actually want to feel connected to us, but also learn about how we got to this place and what motivates us to keep going, and maybe maybe those gaps in between kind of the success points, quote unquote, and the pretty pictures and video and all that,
success,
all that stuff. I feel like this is the time and the place where we can come and do that and not feel the pressure of lights, camera, action, even though we do love that. There's a time and a place for it,
I think at this point too, it's not really pressure.
Yeah.
Regardless, but to your point, this is a space for us to just talk.
Come on.
About whatever.
Yeah.
And also, I think for me, what I learned while shooting part of my testimony was, and one of our friends brought this up as well. When you hear yourself talking about certain things, you hear yourself, there's a healing component to that as well. And I feel oftentimes, whether I'm hearing it from myself or hearing it from people, and you connect with truth.
Yeah.
That it helps, especially when it's things that you can apply to your life. And I believe that as we're talking, what we're talking about being uncut, if you will, is legit. This is what we do. These are the things we're trying. Yeah. These are the things that didn't work.
And truly, at the end of the day, we are still learning. It ain't we've been married for a long time.
Even if we did, I feel like I hear too many people who, because of the time that they've done something, will position themselves
as experts.
When no, because those people, you can also be married for a long time, you can be at a job for 30 years and for 27 of those you were miserable.
Yeah. Or doing the same thing.
Or you were doing the same exact thing. Again. So you weren't trying new things. You weren't growing. You weren't learning. You weren't honest about where you were ever.
Yeah.
So, because for me, life started when I started to be honest with myself about where I was.
Yeah.
As long as I was pretending, it was I've grown more. I worked at Nike for 9.5 years. In my mind, from my experience, I've grown more over the last 2 years, over the last year, than all 9.5 of those combined.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. Because I feel the transformation that has manifested itself in you.
Okay, girl.
In the last year, especially, has been, obviously a lot of the work that was being done to create this change in you was happening underground, right? And so there's some of that I'll never know or understand, because we all have our own process of okay, there's stuff happening underneath the surface. You're just now seeing it because I'm actually showing the fruit of that inner work that was happening underneath the surface all these other years. But in the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of the fruit has been blossoming in a sense. Yeah. And I think on both sides of us, we've been kind of in this interesting place of, okay, I know I've been working on myself the last few years. And now I'm definitely different. How does that actually interact in like real life every day with especially the people that have been a part of my life every day, whether it be like family, friends? Like how does this version of myself actually fit into the world that I live in, but it actually don't fit?
So it doesn't fit. Not the old you, but it's also not supposed to fit.
Yeah.
Because if it's a new you that was created by him,
Yeah.
and you're being led by the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
what the new you represents in any situation, whether it's with family, whether it's with friends, whether it's with strangers,
Yeah.
whether you're at the store, at a coffee shop,
Yeah.
whether you're working with coworkers, is love.
Yeah.
So, like, and that's one of the reasons why it doesn't fit, because we're working in a lot of spaces. We're in a lot of spaces that's void of love. It is darkness.
Yeah.
So when you become the new you,
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable because now you stand out because you're lighting up.
Yeah. Right.
So instead of the light up though that people are used to, which they used to lighten up, and now it's pride. Now it's I'm better than you.
Yeah.
Now it's that. It's to be a light of God where you're more gentle.
Yeah. More generous.
And you're kind and you're generous.
Yeah.
It's like it's a shock.
Yeah.
In a lot of spaces.
Yeah.
And the sad reality is most of the time that shock can be positive or negative, not from you, the way people perceive it. And most of the time with strangers, it's more accepted.
Right, because they didn't know the old you. So they're like, okay,
and
like...
They're like, wow, I've never experienced like that. I'm not used to that, but it feels good.
Yeah.
Whereas to your point, the people that know the old you is like, who do you think you are?
Yeah, heavy.
So it's like you didn't change anything. Like you're still doing what God called you to do because you are supposed to be a new person. Now you're a light.
Yeah.
But it's difficult because oftentimes for people to know you, to accept a new you, that means something inside of them has to change.
Yeah.
To now identify.
Well, and you know what's so interesting is that you know this about me very well. How much I used to really struggle with change. Any sort of change. Like...
Hold on, pause. Which was kind of crazy because I correct me if I'm wrong, right? So I found out about going to Portland, or the opportunity to even go to campus. In your living room, I take a call.
Yeah. This is in 2016.
Summer, or actually like late spring 2016. Yeah. And prior to meeting you, I would have never entertained that because it was a widespread thing that if you're black, don't go to campus. So I'm at home, I'm comfortable, I'm doing my thing. You convinced me to even try to go. Yeah. But when I went, I was afraid at first of like us not being together because it was long distance. Yeah. You didn't sign on to move at first.
No. We had only been dating for like...
So was it that, or were you afraid of the change? Because that's a big change.
No. See, this is the thing. I'm not pressed about change in environment. Okay. I grew up moving all over the world every 3 years as a military kid. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about changing myself or changing my perception of somebody else. That is what I struggled with.
But that's a lot of people.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, in comparison to now where I realize that I'm not as tied to that concept of like, who you are is who you are, and however you present me the first time when I first get to know you or whatever, that's how I'm categorizing you in my mind. Or this is how I'm categorizing myself in my mind. And it's like sometimes like when we're younger, and this is, just like growing up, whether it be from trauma or not. Like, I think like there's so much pressure to fit in and be this type of person or that type of person when you're like going through high school and like college, and like what character are you gonna like presume, and who are you gonna be? Are you gonna be the jock? Are you gonna be smart girl? Are you gonna be cool girl?
All to be accepted.
All the things.
Especially if you don't feel accepted at home.
Exactly. So like you get stuck in this kind of concept of like, I gotta choose who I'm gonna be, especially even like being mixed. Like I went through that whole process of like, well, do I act black or do I act white? Or this scenario I should act more white, and in this scenario I should act more black, and all of that stuff. And so you just get into this habit of like, okay, I gotta stick to whatever I am presenting myself as. Versus that is not that's not the way that we actually should be operating in life. Like that's not any sort of godly way of like perceiving yourself or like presenting yourself to the world.
I'm laughing because when you said that, it's like, think about that. I'm trying to stick with who I presented myself as, right? Most of the time, that presentation to start was a lie.
Oh, 100%.
But you're also, now you're trying to not turn out to be a lie. You've tricked yourself into thinking that that's your truth. So now you're trying to hide a lie.
And you don't even know it.
And you don't even realize
You don't even know it. And it's like, you start, when you become more spiritually mature, you also start to realize like the things that like another person just made up. So it's like even the concept of race, or the concept of like the type of person or the type of girl, the type of guy you are in high school or in college and stuff. It's like, what are we measuring that with? Like, how are we describing the characteristics of like this type of person? It's like, instead of having the freedom to explore who God has created me to be, I am simply choosing from 30 different options of types of people that I can be. These are only people that I've ever been exposed to, because you can't be something you've never known. You can't do that, because then that would be too risky and that would be too different, and you wouldn't.
People still try it.
But even still, but then it's like it's like everybody operates in this, like, especially when you're younger, it's like everybody has this way of like categorizing each other.
Sims
and
real. I mean, now it's worse because now you can. This whole augmented reality.
Well,
it's not reality.
Not even going that far into it, but it's just like the idea that you're fighting that battle from a personal perspective and from your relational perspective, family, friends, like everybody around you. So like, not only are you feeling the pressure internally to like figure out who you are and like what your purpose is and who you're supposed to be when you grow up, you also have a whole society and world that is like, what are you going to be when you grow up, and who are you, and what do you want to do? And so it's all these questions that it's like, okay, all I'm doing is like getting bombarded with questions, and not just questions, but expectations. And then I've got to cipher through all that to figure out that, like, in all actuality, I don't have to abide by any of that.
Well, then you actually got to, like, questions, expectations, and then you have to figure out how to do it and then do it.
It's just so many layers.
There can be expectations before you ever do anything. Like, they're going to be in the Hall of Fame before you ever throw the ball.
Yeah.
It's like, even now, I wanted to put it out there. I do not like when, like people hear like Micah's size, and Micah's in the 100th percentile and height, our son. And they're like,
only a year old.
And it's like, you gonna play football? You gonna do it? No, he ain't.
He may, but he also may not.
I mean, if I gotta say it, he ain't.
Well.
So it's like, because for me, we talked about this morning, like reading this book and hearing about what Adam was truly like. And I thought about myself, and to everything we're talking about, only feeling like I would be accepted if I played football. Growing up in a place where the only way you get out of the hood is you play a sport, or you in music, and so
again forcing you to categorize
so all the boys
into what you've been exposed to,
and it's like, but I love fashion, but I like to draw. Mm-hmm. But that's not getting the same attention or the same praise or the same accolades as if I play football.
And when you think about when you think about it too, it's like that's not getting the same praise, the same accolades. That's all ego feeding.
For a fact.
And when you don't have an environment at home, especially, that does not just feed ego, but feeds your soul, your spirit, your heart, to where it's like, okay, we're focusing on who God calls us, regardless of the praise we get, regardless of the accolades, the titles, the prizes we win, the competitions we like. Besides all of that, like who we are, because we wouldn't be so hungry for those accolades and all that stuff if we were already fulfilled in our hearts and in ourselves before we walked out the door every morning. And I feel like that's what we try to do with our kids, like even them being as young as they are. And unfortunately, our oldest doesn't live with us 100% of the time, so we don't get to have as much daily interaction with fulfilling her with goodness and all the things that we're filling our other kids with. And not to say that she's not getting that at her mom's house, but it's just, recognizing the difference between, when you have a child that lives with you full time and children that don't live with you full time. And so when it comes to our youngest kids, at 3 years old, at 1 year old, we're trying to implement those, like, you're enough already. Like, before you do anything, before you go out there,
whether mommy just finished doing your hair or not, you're still beautiful.
Yeah.
If you don't eat all your food, you're still like it's letting them know that you don't have to do anything to earn this.
Yeah.
Like, God didn't say, "Hey guys, when you spend 5 years straight without sin, then I'll send Jesus."
Yeah.
Like, prove to me that you deserve my only son.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So why is it that we're raising our children
to have to earn
opposite
everything
of how God sees us?
Yeah, exactly.
It's insane. Then we're shocked at the results of the world that we see today.
Yeah.
It's all indicative of a whole lot of people that weren't getting "you're beautiful" without putting on a dress or getting their hair done.
Yeah.
Or men saying that you're going to be a good, or you are a good boy, whether you come home with straight A's or whether you clean, whatever it is, you are still good.
Yeah.
Period.
And not waiting until it's a reward or, reward or discipline moment for those praises or, reprimanding. And I think that it is a radical way of us approaching parenting, especially in this day and age, because it is different. We're not going to be so goals and success oriented with our kids. So our kids will end up looking, feeling, walking, talking differently than a lot of their friends. And I know that that's going to come with a level of scrutiny and a level of, quote unquote, feeling isolated. But I think that at the end of the day, as their parents, there's a responsibility and an obligation on us to do things the way that we believe is right, whether other people agree with us or not, whether other people adopt our parenting, skills or not.
Not right. But, righteous.
Yeah.
And I don't care what people got to say about it. It's our podcast. Like, righteous. Like, I said in a text message yesterday to the homies, like, we have this thing about, you have a lot of self-righteous people that are coming against righteousness. Mm-hmm. Righteousness is good. Righteousness is possible.
Yeah.
Just because self-righteous people have given the word a bad name doesn't mean that that's not the way God wants us to live. There's a difference between right, wrong, and righteous. Mm-hmm. They aren't the same thing.
Yeah.
Something can be right, but not what God wants you to do.
Yeah.
Not what God has told us to do. So we follow by what is righteous. There's a righteous reality that if you respect your children, then your children will respect you.
Yeah.
There's a righteous reality to if you
train up a child the right way, it will not depart them.
They're doing as you do.
Yeah.
Not as you say.
Yeah.
I called myself today, so I was like, what she say? What the heck? And I was like, don't say. Dad's gonna stop saying that.
Yeah.
Because you got that from me.
Yeah.
How can I correct you?
I'm not gonna lie though, I say what the heck all the time,
well,
and
from
I'm
you
not
too.
particularly.
I'm
not gonna say I'm gonna stop saying what the heck, because for me,
I'm gonna try.
Saying what the heck is a far cry from what I used to say.
What the hell ain't bad?
It ain't
bad.
But I know you're just
context.
using that as an example.
Yeah,
but you know, it's stuff like, you know, especially like the word like shut up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I do not like that.
Yeah.
Like, but I feel like in your family growing up, like y'all said shut up with more of a lax kind of like connotation towards it.
Versus, you saying shut up with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
Which still ain't cool, but it's just harder to... It softens it.
Softens the blow a little bit. But for me, I get really offended by that. And I don't know if it's a matter of just like it triggers something in me, but like I really don't like that verbiage. So like I don't say shut up to you. I don't say shut up to the kids. I don't say really...
I don't feel like we say shut up in our house. Like, period. I mean, we're very particular. Like...
Language is important.
Oh, our words are so... We're going to give account for everything that comes out of our mouth.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's honestly not a belief of most people, even if they say that they believe in the Bible.
Yeah.
Because if we really believed that, imagine every single day before you go to bed, you have to go into a room and you have to literally play yourself and give an account for everything that came out of your mouth to God for real. Before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the way we speak to each other drastically change?
Yeah. But you know, we be going and going and going and going and not thinking about how our words impact people and how our language can affect people. And a lot of time I think we give people passes. We also give ourselves passes. Like, I said that, but I didn't mean it. I said this, but I didn't mean it like that. And it's like, okay, granted, like, we're not perfect, right? So like, or without flaw rather. So it's like, no, you're not going to always get it right. You're not going to always be able to like control your tongue, but like, your tongue is a powerful thing, like life and death. So
Facts. When
you really think about that and you recognize, and I think as parents, like that also like heighten that awareness for us, because it's like before you have kids, you just, you know, going off and nobody's repeating you. But when you have toddlers who literally pick up everything and they recite, and a lot of people, you know, even when you have toddlers who like say bad words or whatever, and like people think it's cute, but it's like, it's not gonna be cute in a couple years. It's not gonna be cute.
I mean, it's funny because it was cute when I was a kid, getting kids to do it. Like, we used to make my younger cousin do it, right? It was funny. But like, to your point, when you get older, it's like, for me, seeing a kid curse ain't funny.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
But it's kind of crazy because kind of bringing this back, right, to our expectations of ourselves and what others put on us. I remember a time when my whole kind of transformation started happening in 2018 where like, so I used to not cuss. I've never thought that was like dope, right? And I would say somewhere around like 2017, it got really bad for me. Music I was listening to, the people I was around, like the experiences.
The way we was living in 2017.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
And so when I started, one of the first things that became like this needs to change was my language as I'm going through the transformation. Ironically, we'd have Sarai a year later. So it was almost like God was preparing us for kids because you can't
preparing you because it didn't catch on for me when you started doing that. It still low key ain't caught on to me in every sense, but you know, I'm definitely more mindful of my words. And you know, for me growing up in a military environment, like everybody cuss like sailors, like
same thing.
You know,
corporate America. It was, remember that video I let you hear? I went to work super early, like 6:45 a.m. one day, and these two dudes was like on a bottom floor. Like there were like levels in our building, but there were stairs that connected.
I feel like I remember the video, but I don't remember what they were saying. Were they fighting or something?
They were arguing over like
arguing.
expense reports, and like somebody's was wild and the other person was like confronting them about it, but then they started to like talk about what the other people be doing on theirs, and they were like legit in a full cussing match at 7:00 in the morning in the office.
It's too early for that. It's
but
really
it's
too early
like for
that.
me, I honestly felt like to fit in with where I am, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Like everybody else is cussing. It's like a rite of passage.
But it's also like, even that, it's like, why do we care so much about how other people feel about us? Like, that is a chokehold in your 20s, in your teens.
That's a chokehold. 20s and teens. That's 40 and 50-year-olds are still working at a job or still trying to get a degree because I'm worried about what somebody else think of me.
But
like,
the
older you get, you just get better at hiding that.
Yeah.
You get better at putting different clothes on it so like they can't tell that you're actually people pleasing.
Yeah.
But really, like,
and listen, and I think like you just get better at it too.
Yeah.
Like you really just get better at it, better at hiding it, and you have this facade of like, I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing me, but it just so happens to like be on par with like everybody else around you, and it's not really that much of a difference than anybody else, but like it's just enough for you to feel like you're operating on your own level, but like you're really just doing it better than other people. Like so just one crazy? Step better than other people.
Even as it pertains to, well, people won't get mad, but I'm gonna say it.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Protesting.
Hey, are you enjoying the show so far? We'd love to hear what you think. Give us a review wherever you're listening, and definitely hop in our DMs on social media. We love hearing how this show is leaving an impact on your hearts and your minds. Now let's get back to the show. Ooh.
Like, that's a level of people pleasing. I want you to think that I care more than I actually do, because what I found about when you really care about something.
Set the context for this. So, we're not saying that protesting has always been a worthless pursuit. I don't think it's been a worthless pursuit. It was more impactful than it is now.
Okay, we're different here because I think protesting is worthless without personal action and accountability. See, because the reality is, if I leave the house to protest, pay for women, but I don't respect the women in my home, what are you doing it for? What are you doing it for? If I'm protesting rights for black people, but I talk to my family crazy, or I put crazy expectations on them, well, what's the difference between me going to corporate America and being told, as a black man, you have to be better than everybody else? What's the difference? So I've protested before, and I'm just like, man, if we're going to do this outwardly, but don't work on ourselves both inside,
yeah,
what is that for? The only thing left is for show for people. So public. I look like I care. But when it comes down to doing the things that show that I care, no fruit. No labor. So, yeah, you still got some of that Delta protesting rights talk, but for me, I'm like, if you mean to the person because they messed up your order, well, you're no different than the people that y'all are protesting against.
Yeah. So it's a matter of, really looking at your heart posture at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Like, I understand the passion to make change happen. I understand the
Chill out, bro.
feeling of frustration and feeling of angst that comes with, being of a marginalized community, being of a voiceless community, being like, you know what, they don't pay attention to us any other time. Now I have to go physically disrupt, business. I have to physically go disrupt social order because that is the only way that we get attention.
But
all of that,
not,
but what I'm trying to explain is it's almost like apples and oranges. Like, we're still fruit, right?
Yeah.
But we're two different types of fruit. And if you're only eating oranges, it's going to be a little too acidic. It's going to be a little too much. You need the fiber from the apple to balance out. You need different nutrients from different fruits and different vegetables. So it's like, to only be so hyper-focused in on protesting and like outwardly trying to make change, you are neglecting the fact that a lot of change also needs to be happening from an internal perspective. And that's the part where people are like, I'll put that to the side. I'll worry about myself later. Or I'm so focused on doing this out there that I don't have time to see a therapist. I don't have time to read my Bible. I don't have time to sit and talk to God about what's really hurting me inside. I'm so focused on trying to get people registered to vote. I'm so focused on,
Think about that, right? There's a prophecy in, I want to say it's Isaiah, or no, Jeremiah 31, I believe, where God is saying to Israel through Jeremiah, there's going to come a time that my law won't be written on a tablet. It'll be written on your hearts. Mm. Because there was an understanding that any change, whether we're talking about change out there, whether we're talking about change in a workplace, it starts inside. I remember when 2019, George Floyd and everybody, all the companies were, I'm gonna donate $50 million over the next 10 years. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, right? I will never forget Jerry Lorenzo came out and he said, hey, I don't want a company to come out and tell me all the things that they're going to do. I want them to be quiet, talk to their employees internally about those changes. And once that work is done enough on the inside, it has no choice but to come outside of you. Mm-hmm. That's my process. Mm-hmm. This work on the inside started in 2018. Mm-hmm. It started to come out of me like in a bigger way 2020, 2021 now. Yeah. But it started on the inside. Permanent work always starts on the inside. So if there's an outward expression first, that's temporary. Because eventually either nothing's going to change and it's just going to make you madder to where now you've turned into the same people that you're trying to fight against, mm-hmm. or you're just going to keep doing the same thing and nothing's going to change. Mm-hmm. Because you're distracted by the part that really needs to change for permanent change, and that's the inside.
And the thing is, the outside is only a manifestation of what's going on internally. So if you are sowing a seed of healing in your heart, you will reap fruits of healing outside of you, mm-hmm. in ways that you cannot comprehend until you see that fruit actually bear itself in real, like, physical life.
Facts.
So it kind of goes back to the whole point of just like this concept of like, you having this very like huge transformation over the last few years, but really it showing and bearing fruit in the last year or two for both of us, really. But this work started years ago, and I feel like this is something that we've talked about before, but I think it's not talked about enough, is that tension. Because I feel like people can get so discouraged, like as they're on that spiritual walk, trying to become better, heal their heart, chasing after God and trying to grow spiritually. And it's like you can go to church and you can hear a message that really speaks to you and really helps you feel better and solid and hopeful and all these things. But then you go back out into the world and you have 50,000 messages from your phone, from media, from work, from the people around you that are conflicting with that message that you heard on Sunday, or even the scripture that you read 2 days ago. Like, it's so many things that are fighting against, like, what God is trying to, like, place in our hearts. And so it does get hard and it does get confusing. And a lot of the time you do feel defeated. You do feel like, how am I ever going to get to a place where I can actually experience peace, where I can actually experience joy? I don't even know what that looks or feels like, because I feel like I've always been chasing something my whole life. I've always been trying and trying and trying.
Because you have.
And failing. And feeling like failing and feeling like a failure, and you just get discouraged. And that's another trick of the enemy, is just to keep you in this place that, like, quote unquote, you'll never make it. But, like, we're literally sitting here today as two healed individuals, and I don't know that many people that I can truly look at and say and know from my own personal experience that they are healed from the things that you've been through.
When we find them, like, when I say we are, like,
yeah,
and we holding on, because
yeah,
it is hard out here. And, like, to your point, right? I think one of the things that I did and still do, because, like, that doesn't stop, right? Like, the messages, the news, all these things that literally contradict God in every way don't stop. And I believe, just from my own experiences and even watching you, the only way through is to close the tunnels.
The access points.
Close the access points. Because the noise doesn't stop. We always say there's one way to God and a million ways to Satan. Like, Satan got all types of, like, he got a buffet. Like, pull up to the table, like, what you want?
Right.
Or porn your thing, I got that for you. Music your thing, I got that for you. Women your thing, I got that for you. Overeating your thing, I got that for you. Like he has a whole, gossip is your thing, I got, like, lying your thing, stealing. Shopping is your thing, stealing. Whatever your thing is, the enemy got you. And so what has helped us is we don't watch the news. Yeah. Like, if we need to know it, it gets to us.
We trust God is going to get the message to us, whether it's through family, friends, people, just in general. What you need to know, God is going to make sure you know. It's another thing when you feed off of the fear, or you feed off of the anxiety, or well, I just need to know. Well, do you need to know?
Nah.
All the time, you know? And so,
I used to come home from work, yo, and this woman would literally...
You always tell this story. It's so annoying.
Have the TV on CNN all day. All day.
Well, because...
Like, it was just... She wouldn't even... She'd have her back to the TV at times, working on the laptop, and CNN is just playing in the background. Even at work, like, we had multiple TVs, and it would either be on sports or the news. And it's just like... I was in a coffee shop the other day, and one TV was on CNN and one TV was on Fox News. And I'm sitting in the middle of the coffee shop, and it was very hard not to sporadically look up and see what was on there and see what they were talking. I had to literally change my seat and put my headphones on noise cancellation, which I don't like to do in public, but I had to, because that's there's a pull for us to want to know.
They want your attention.
They want your attention. Yeah. So it's like the breaking news, the colors, all the fonts, all these things are used to get your attention. Yeah. So unless you are as intentional or more about stopping it, it will rob you of the very thing that you got on Sunday. Yeah. Well, and especially when it's just on Sunday.
Well, and it's made that way too. So, like, I think that, like, when I was first kind of coming out of that rhythm of like, okay, I watch the news here and there, but then the pandemic happens, or like Trump getting elected in 2016 happens, and I started to consume more news just because I'm following the election and I'm following I'm following all of these things, right? So I got into this habit of like constantly being in the know of like what's happening, and very very understandable too, right? Because it's like we want to know like what's going to happen as far as policies goes, how our lives are going to be affected by this new leadership. All of these different things are valid and important, but you have a lot of things stacked against you to hold on to your attention so hard that if you're not careful, you will get sucked into all of it, and it's programmed that way. So I used to feel, irritated and annoyed by you when you would say like cut this off, or like put something else on, or you're always watching this. I would be like, stop, like leave me alone and let me watch what I want to watch or whatever. But it's
just
like
that too, like she would get so agitated, like 0 to
I
used to always say 0 to 10 Jade, because she would go be just sweet, and all of a sudden would just go, I'm like, yo, damn, okay.
But
no 1 through 9. You just
but that showed how trapped I was into just like the attention, and how captivated I was. And now it's like I've worked really hard on not allowing anything to have my attention like that. Not even just the news. I don't want nothing.
Nothing
to have my attention to the point where I'm like, I'm about to like, go ham on you for like trying to disrupt my attention span. Like, and the thing is, I think like for me, I'm a very go deep. I'm reading this book called Deep Work, if y'all have heard of it. I think the author's name is Cal Newton. I don't know. But it's called Deep Work, and it talks about this concept of like really focusing in on work and not having like a ton of distractions, and how you can, it actually makes more sense for a lot of people to like spend a considerable amount of short time, like long hours in a couple days on a subject or a thing, versus trying to like do an hour or two multiple times a day, or like through like 2 weeks. Like it's kind of like this idea of like going deeper instead of like trying to stay surface level, because you do start to really, master and kind of get into a flow. So naturally, like I've always been that way. If I'm locked in attention wise, it is very easy for me to literally block everything out. And if I get pulled out of that attention or that focus, I'm irritated because I didn't willingly exit my focus. I'm being yanked out of it in some way, shape, or form. And part of me feels like this is probably a much deeper situation, probably a lot more spiritual than I can even comprehend at this point. But this idea that when you have a level of peace and you have a level of trust that nothing happens by chance, and that, for example, if you as my husband are saying, hey babe, maybe we need to like cut this off, or can we watch something else, taking that as a sign that, hey, God is trying to get my attention off of this thing that is actually sucking my peace out. That's actually sucking my, my energy out, that I'm too deep in and I need help getting out of.
Ooh, tag me in.
Okay, go ahead.
So, no. You said something that like sparked something, right? You would always tell me to use honey.
Yeah.
And I think like that's really clicked for me, and like obviously you.
So let me explain the honey. Let me explain the honey concept before you continue on, so they understand what we're talking about. So whenever we communicate with each other and we're trying to correct each other, trying to help each other, whatever, we both come from like pasts where we were highly critical of ourselves. So we would be highly critical with other people, especially each other, because we're so close. Like we've always been ever since we started dating, we've always been very like in tune with one another. So we would talk to each other, not any kind of way, but I think we would straight to the point, and not necessarily have like great bedside manner with each other sometimes. And I like would always tell him like, hey, especially as a man speaking to women, especially like me, the girls, like our daughters, like use honey, not vinegar. So like you already being a man, you already being this strong, tall black man, like your presence can be somewhat intimidating if I'm already feeling triggered by something else, or I'm already feeling in like a vulnerable state. So like automatically kind of going to a place of like, how can I serve her honey with this response versus serving it with vinegar, which is like no padding, no, and some people say like don't sugarcoat stuff. That's not what we're saying.
That's not.
We're saying like have a
leading with kindness, like leading with love.
Yes.
So it's
and making sure you're doing it with that in mind.
Think about the end goals.
Yeah.
So if I want this to happen, and I want it to happen in the best way possible, then that will dictate the way I did it.
Yeah. And that's different than manipulation. And because that's, I have to say this, you used to be a master manipulator.
Yeah.
And you used to do it with our daughters and, well, really our oldest. And I had to start calling you out on it because I could tell that it had gotten to a point for you that it wasn't from a bad place. It was literally out of habit and not understanding how you were manipulating a situation. Simply, it was coming from a place of you wanted a specific result from a conversation or a situation, a specific result.
Yes.
Right. So you would set up certain scenarios, you would set up certain conversations to lead us down a specific path to get to something that you desired versus. And that's manipulation. What we're talking about right now is the concept of leading with kindness, leading with a sweetness, so that the outcome is in good rapport and is in a good space and feels
honestly,
like love.
Whether it's my desired outcome or not.
Right. Exactly. It's like you're not determining the outcome. You're simply focused on if I want her to actually receive what I'm saying from a loving place, because the reality is this may not be easy for her to hear, but I'm saying it because it's the truth, and I'm just making sure that my truth is attached to kindness, that my truth is attached to another spirit of God, so that it lands the way that will be received the best way. That's what we talk about when it comes to like leading with honey. Yes.
And even as you were talking, I'm thinking like, wow, you said something else that's like, I would never know. I'm not a woman. No matter how much I ever wanted to be or whatever, I can't be. And so I would never know what that feels like to have a man with my voice, with my stature and all of the... I have to trust that if my wife is saying this to me, looking out for me in this way, receive it, because I have nothing to measure it up against. For me to deflect that would be like, okay, so what are your reasons? Well, you're not a woman, you're not 5'3", you're not, like, there's so many different variables that have nothing to...
And the alternative is, I'm just gonna stay the way that I am.
Pride.
Boom.
So in leading with honey and her saying that to me, like, I've honestly just started to get that. And outside of a like non-manipulative place, to say, okay, whether she does what I want her to do or not, it won't be because I came to her crazy or my tone was off or I was abrasive, or even like she says to me, whatever gentle is to you, go below that.
No, go more, dive into it more. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's going to be, it's a manual thing for you while you're trying to train up that muscle.
Like literally, like I think about these things, like with you, with Ari, with Sarah, like with my mom, with myself, like I think about these things because it's like, wow, again, I don't know how that feels. Yeah. But I do know that if it was to a point that somebody's telling me they feel that way, or I have to tell them I feel that way, it's not okay. Yeah. So like, for us men, let's be better at being gentle with our women, because again, how can I be protesting on your behalf? Going all the way back full circle. Yeah. How can I protest on your behalf or reshare a post? Like, that's like, why? So what?
Which is the virtual version of protest.
It's the virtual version of protest. You reshare something where it's like, I see from the outside looking in, okay, like, I don't know that person, but I guess since they sharing this, they're down with the cause. But what I can't see is the way you treat the women right in front of you. Mm-hmm. That God is giving you the space to interact with. What am I doing with that? Mm-hmm. Because if I'm not doing what I should be doing with that, I'm not. It's like the person saying, "Oh, I want to be more generous. So if I get $100,000, I would give $20,000 to somebody." But if you want to give $20 to somebody when you got 100, you're not gonna give 20,000 when you got 100. It don't work like that.
Yeah.
We would like for it to work like that.
Yeah.
Generosity ain't tied to I don't have it. It's tied to I don't want it. I don't have a heart for it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's being real. When I was real there, well, then the change can happen.
Yeah.
When you don't care about what people say about you,
yeah.
then you can be real with yourself, because oftentimes we're not real with ourselves because of what somebody else has said about
And
us.
we're preoccupied with trying to appease other people.
Yeah, because we believe what they said, but we don't believe
or the mental
what God
space
said.
to like address ourselves. And it's actually the most uncomfortable thing to address yourself and like where you're really at. And that's why I think marriage is incredible, because it's just like a safe space to be able to do that when you're both aware of like the ins and outs, and maybe not even always aware. I wasn't always aware of like how to navigate like us as individuals, the things we were going through together, like any of that. But I always felt like I would try my best to operate from a good place, from a loving place, from a forgiving place as much as I could. And unknowingly, I was training up those muscles to be able to do it more and more and more, and vice versa. Like you were doing it in your own ways, and that helped both of us get to such a better place healing wise, to where it's like we sit here and we're two healed people, but we're not flawless, right? So it's like we are healed from those things that happened to us when we were children. And that's the battle that a lot of people are either avoiding or just are stuck in between. But it's like, what if you actually dealt with those things, healed those things, gave them to God, and then started to live your life without that on you?
That's the success.
Yeah.
Like, we think that success, I mean, everybody's views of success is like different, but success is in that heal thing. Because we're healed. Okay, well now, moving forward, I know that you're my person. So there's nothing that we can't talk about.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I'm not going to hide anything from you, because I trust you, because I'm healed. So I'm not putting you through this filter of hurt that's saying, well, you can't trust her because remember when that happened.
Yeah.
All of that is out of the way.
Yeah.
So now we come to a clear table with the ability to put anything on the table with each other. That's true growth. That's success. We'll never be complete we'll never be quote unquote perfect as the world sees it until Jesus comes back. We're still in his flesh. However, the next best thing is to be healed, because then healed is simply being an open vessel that God can use. So healed Jade says that when God tells you to point out something in me, you're not fighting yourself. You're not worried about my expectation of it. You're just saying it, which helps me, and vice versa. Then I can receive what my healed wife said without thinking, well, she's just saying that because that happened to her.
Yeah.
And she's just doing that because. So it works for both of us because we know each other's hearts.
Yeah.
When you can say, my wife's heart is after God. So if she says it, I don't got to question it. I no longer have to go back and say, well, God, Jay said that I should work on my tongue. No, it's more so, God, I need to work on my tongue. Because your daughter that I know is healed brought that to me. She wouldn't bring that to me just because she's healed. There's nothing like, blocking it. There's nothing altering your message. So now I'm coming to God like, God, help me with my tone.
Yeah.
Not, God, is my tone off? Because she said, no, God, help me with my tone.
Right. Because you already know that the Spirit is working through me the same way the Spirit is working through you.
Because we're healed.
And we know we're being used constantly, especially to help each other. And so trusting that if I'm bringing something to you like that it ain't really just me coming. It's God speaking to you as well.
Facts.
So it's not like you're questioning what I'm saying. It's that you're taking and understanding that this is a message from God that is going to actually help me partner with him more.
And like, you have to, this is a longer conversation, like the whole like healing thing, but you have to go through a process to get to that healed place because of all the things that we've all been through.
Yeah.
Like
so
it was very easy for me at a time to say, well, she's just saying that because she don't really know me like that, and I went through this, that, and like anything to keep from going to the thing that you said.
Yeah. Like
anything.
this, I'm this way because this happened.
And it's like, cool, you still this way, so that has to get fixed. But I'm distracted by the fact that you said it, when you said it. It's like how you said it, when it's like, nah. Now I can cut through that and say, Dad, she wouldn't just say that just because she wanted to say it. Like, that's my mind. Even if I thought that, that's my mind playing tricks on me to keep me distracted from addressing the very thing that's going to help me.
And your flesh is always going to fight the Spirit. Yeah. Always. So there is a part of you, even with questioning, that knows the truth. Because if you didn't know and it felt completely off, you wouldn't question it. You would just know, that's not it. Like you would know. Yeah. So it's like the more you grow spiritually, the more, Mike is awake. We're seeing him on our camera. Well, we can wrap it up. But we'll have to definitely continue the conversation in our next episode about just healing and also questioning while you're in your healing process, like understanding between like, okay, the flesh and the spirit, but also like there are times when the enemy does try to come in with those negative thoughts and try to question people that love you and like all those things. But that's a whole.
If you healed,
but you still got to decipher.
I'm talking to my wife and saying, babe, this is what's going on in my head.
Which is another reason why marriage is awesome.
Like, you can speak some truth to it and be like, nah, babe, that's not what it is. Yeah. That's the enemy playing tricks on you. Let's pray right now.
Yeah.
I mean, see, all
right, so we'll talk about that in the next episode.
Maybe, because God may have a time.
We'll get to it at some point.
Yeah, it will be addressed. All right.
Yes, it will be addressed. All right, y'all. So we are going to say goodbye on this episode, and we will chat soon. Hit us up on Instagram, on the TikToks, on all the things. Yeah. You can find me, Jade Godbolt, pretty much everywhere as Jade Godbolt. You can find Mark
at Mark Z Godbolt, pretty much everywhere.
And also,
that's my bad. What?
The Memo for Men.
The Memo for Men. Shout out to the Memo for Men. Check that out at the Memo for Men, where we do content that's specific to men.
Yeah.
And us getting better, because it starts with us.
Yeah.
If we can fix ourselves, if we can work on us inwardly, that will be reflected outwardly in so many different ways.
And y'all also do a Bible study every Wednesday. And we do a Bible study
every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. CST. DM us or email us at love@thememoformen.com for more information. Website comes on.
Mark and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It's truly a pleasure to be a part of your day. Keep up with us on social media, but also feel free to email us at team@thegodboltlife.com if you got any prayer requests or questions that we can answer. Until next time, chat soon. Bye.